Hey, friends. Welcome to the Self-Love Strong podcast. I'm super excited you guys are here. Today, I'm honored to welcome a truly inspirational guest to the podcast. We have Carey Conley. Carey is a visionary, an author, a speaker, and a mentor dedicated to helping individuals define and live their life purpose. With over 20 years of experience in business leadership and personal development, Carey has traveled the world empowering entrepreneurs, professionals, and young adults to create a crystal clear vision for their lives. However, Carey's journey has been shaped by profound personal loss. After losing both her husband, Ross, and her son, Cole, to suicide, she is faced with an unimaginable choice: succumbing to grief or find purpose through the pain. She chose purpose, turning her heart into a mission. Carey has made it her life's work to help others find hope, clarity, and direction, especially those struggling with mental health challenges, loss, and uncertainty about their future. She's also the co-author of Keep Looking, a powerful book that she wrote with her daughter, Laurel, to help others navigate grief, transform tragedy into hope. And she also is the author of Vision to Victory, which is a guide to individuals to overcoming obstacles and turning their dreams into actionable success. Her workshops, coaching, and podcasts, Carey's on a mission to save 1 million lives by helping youth adults and parents define their vision and purpose. She believes that vision provides direction, hope, and strength to move forward through life's darkest moments. Please welcome to the podcast, Carey Conley. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Sam. I'm happy to be here.
Oh man, your story and your mission is just truly just so powerful when I heard it. So with all that challenges, how has life, with your career challenges and experience that personal loss, how has life changed? Loss.
You froze up on me for a minute there, Sam. So how my life has changed?
No, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I know we have a delay. So how has your life changed after experiencing tragedy? How has your career changed after that tragedy?
Well, I've been teaching people the importance of having a really clear vision for their life for over 30 years. And I lost my husband now, it'll be almost 11 years ago. So my purpose has just been 10x'd, so to speak, right? Because now it's not just about having a vision for your life to create everything you want and dream of, but it's really now more about me talking about vision from a standpoint of having hope in your life, knowing your purpose, and being able to move through your own adversity. So I just amplified what I was doing. Obviously, life is not how I turned out it was going to be, but it's still my vision. And my vision is to help other people with their vision and purpose.
That's powerful in itself. Imagine when you're going through any challenges, setbacks, sometimes people freeze, but I love that you decided to, hey, I'm going to amplify my purpose. I'm going to really dig deep, realize that I can do more, even though, that tragedy, man, that's tough. So what was that moment that you chose to find purpose through that grief? What was that pivotal moment where you're like, you know what, I'm going to 10x things? What was that moment?
Well, like I said, I've been doing this for a very long time. So it was just a matter of now what platform can I put it on that makes it bigger? So I just started speaking more. Like you mentioned, my daughter and I co-authored a book together in 2019. So we launched that book in a really big way that year and started speaking together for a while. And, it was just a moment, I think, that she and I both decided, because we were so public with our story, that we needed to really start speaking more. She still speaks with me every once in a while, but she has 2 little boys now. So it's a little bit challenging for her to do what I do. But, it was just, we had so many people, Sam, coming to us and asking us, how are we getting through it? How are we being so strong? And so we wrote that book, Keep Looking Up, to share our journey with other people as to how it was for us and what helped us get through it.
Oh, that's powerful. I love how y'all came together and really, embrace that mission together. I think that's such a powerful thing. Many times tragedy separates people, but I love how it really pulled together and I decided to move forward together as well. So right. Was there any key strategies? 'Cause I'm thinking somebody listening to this that's like, you know what, I'm dealing with that tragedy, or maybe I went through something really challenging. what really helped you? Was there any key strategies? I know you're talking about I set vision for my life. Was there any key strategies that helped y'all kind of move forward together in unison?
This is a lot of what our book is about. We each chapter, Sam, we cover a different topic, and we do it from my perspective and also from her perspective. And what's interesting about that is that some of the things we worked through together, and some things we had to do on our own. And we just had to find respect for each other. And obviously we had respect for each other, but, give each other space to deal with it the way that we needed to deal with it. My daughter has, always been a big proponent of getting counseling and therapy. And I've done some of that, but a lot of what I needed to do was just kind of had a lot of quiet time. We leaned both of us leaned very, very heavily on our faith, knowing that, as tragic as this is and how much we wish they were here, we know that we will all be together again. So we just gave each other a lot of room, and still do, to move through things the way that we need to. And now that she has a family, we support each other in our lifestyles as well. So I live in Arizona. She lives in Oklahoma. We try to get together as much as possible.
Man, I really love that. I love how you talked about, we all heal differently. And I think that's an important thing for people to know, like when they're going through any tragedy. It's just that we all heal differently. And I love how you said, like, we had to respect each other's boundaries, that some things realized that we had to take on our own. Like, healing process is still our own, but we can still move together. I love that. That's awesome.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's just, there's no timeline on things. There's no right or wrong. Sometimes people don't understand why you are doing or not doing certain things. And unfortunately, you lose some people along the way. It just comes with the process. But we just needed to, again, have that space to kind of figure things out, and still do, even though it's been almost 11 years now. There's always a new phase that we're working through.
Man, that's powerful, man. I love that. Talk about that. It's not something that just is a one-time fix-all thing, but it's still a process, and you're still growing through it, and you can still realizing it, honoring it at the same time, and honoring each other. I think that's a beautiful thing. So I want to hear so much about this. Yeah, I love that. I love that. But I want to hear about that mission. What really set that mission to saying, hey, I want to impact 1 million lives, really helping youth and adult parents that are maybe going through some of that situation. Where did that mission start? My son was 25 when he passed, and I'm very close to that generation. A lot of his friends, my daughter's friends, and a lot of young adults that I've met in my journey. And I understand their struggles because they are very transparent with me about what they're working through. There's no secret to what's happening in that generation. When I say young adults, I'm talking early 20s to mid 30s, right? They're getting out, they're starting their lives, they're trying to figure it out, and really working through a lot: relationships, their own health, what career path they're on, what they like, what they don't like, building new friendships. It's a challenge. It's a big challenge. And so I just really want to support them, and I'm working on building a community right now called Vision is Victory Academy, to bring them together and to give them that support and the education that they need and the community that they need. Man, I love that. I love that mission. I think that's a powerful thing. Like you said, there's really, I think many times, like you get in struggle and to shy away, but I love that you're bringing people that are going through the challenges, but more so allowing those people to realize that they're not alone. That's so awesome.
Right. It's so important because this generation especially is very isolated and very lonely, and that's not a good thing. So I, along with a team of people and a lot of other thought leaders in this world, are very much behind this mission. And so, we just keep talking about it and keep getting on bigger platforms so we can share it.
Man, I love it. I'm excited you're sharing that. I think that's like you said, somebody listening to this, they're like, man, you know what? Maybe they felt alone. And I think that's such a powerful thing. Like, you're like, we can build community. Like you said, in isolation. Like, I'm thinking about, we had a few years, you're supposed to separate, right? So isolation was like mandatory the past few years when we were going through that COVID. So that's a crazy generation shift. And I love how you focus on that generation and realize the importance of what people are going. So what would you say? Oh yeah, no, yeah. I guess, sorry, I know probably a little delay. What are you going to say?
I didn't hear the last part what he said, so go ahead and repeat it.
Oh no, yeah, you're fine. I said, yeah, I love the fact that you are really focusing on that generation. I know there's so many challenges, and I love that you focused on that because like we went through COVID, isolation was what it needed to be, but now like it's like you said, we're trying to get back into making connections again. I think that's super important, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's challenging to figure out how to find those people. I know my son went through it when he got out of college and moved from our hometown is Colorado. And he accepted a job here in Arizona. And, when you're growing up, you have built-in communities. You have your schoolmates, your neighbors, all that is all there. And when you come out of school or move out of the home or whatever, a lot of them move away to new states and they don't know anybody. And so it's challenging to find those communities again because they're just not built in. So it's a big, big issue.
Yes, I 100% agree. When you said that, I'm like, man, it's so true because that's that pivotal age. Like you say, your friends move away. You might go to a new school, and like you said, you're trying finding that community can be hard because maybe sports brought you that community, but now you're like really meeting people as an adult. It is kind of hard making friends right. When you say that.
Yeah, it really is. And, we had to really work on that, especially, my son went to work for a news station. And although they had a handful of young adults like him, it was a lot of, more people my age. So it's kind of challenging, and then the other outlets are, you hang out at bars, which is not a great scene. He had to really find he used to play tennis. So he got in a young adult group of playing tennis. But it took some time.
Man, okay. So is there so if somebody was listening to this, is there any strategies or something like you have found that helps people kind of, break out of that isolation stage and get to that action stage to where we can start making some connection?
Well, I think the beautiful thing about us having all the apps that we have, right, is that you can find meetups anywhere. And it's just a matter of looking and seeing what are your interests. Like I said, for my son, it was tennis. Finding a group that was about his age that met, to play tennis once a week. Whatever your interests are, I just really want to encourage you to, find an app, find a meetup group, find something on the, Google it. Where are tennis groups in my area? And just take this step to just go and see if it's something you enjoy. And I know it's kind of scary, especially if you're more of an introvert and it's hard for you to step into a room of people you don't know. But I'm a huge believer in networking and being a part of hobby-based interests.
Yeah, like you said, technology has made it so convenient for us where we can really find those groups like you were talking about. You can just get on an app and find some of those common interests. I think that's a great strategy when it just kind of finding some like-minded individuals. So, I really love how you focus on helping people build a vision for their lives. So why is having a clear vision for your life critical for overcoming challenges?
So what I mean by having a vision, Sam, is I get people to really sit down and think out, all right, specifically I use timestamps on things. So I ask people to think 3 years out. How old are you going to be? How old will your family members be? And to really define, because this is what somebody did for me when I was in my late 20s. I was, I was in a 9-to-5 job and I was changing jobs and I just did not like the 9-to-5 thing. So I sat down and wrote out in great detail what I wanted my life to look like, the freedom I wanted, what kind of entrepreneurial business I might grow, what kind of mom I wanted to be when we were raising our kids, where we were living, what kind of vacations we were taking. I got really, really clear on the lifestyle that would bring me joy so that I could now start taking steps in the direction of creating that. And so what it has helped me do, Sam, is step into being an entrepreneur when I had my kids. And then I started teaching it to other people. So it's really just taking the time to really sit down and figure out what is it that you really want. and getting so clear on it that you can define it to other people. And then just start taking some little baby steps in that direction, right? If it's changing careers, if it's finding a relationship, so getting healthier, growing your finances, it just takes thinking through it so that you can now put some solid goals in place.
Really like that. I like how you were talking about that 3 years out. I think it's kind of hard and sometimes overwhelming. Like, well, 3 years, how am I going to know? But I love that you're talking about you planning for the future. I think so many times we leave things to chance. We're just hope, but I love how you're talking about having that clear vision for your life, and it kind of removes the guesswork. So it really allows you to get where you want to be. So is there a reason why you say 3 years is a good time span to plan out for?
I think people can get their head wrapped around 3 years. If I were to say 5 or 10 years, it seems really far out. But 3 years is just kind of right here. I mean, it's not that long. So, but also with every 3 years, if you look out, Sam, like we tend to, when we look at 3 years out, especially how old we're going to be in our family members, you can probably see some shifts that are coming, right? And so, for example, when I started doing this and we were starting to have our family, I could see 3 years out and look at, okay, how old my kids were going to be and what was going to be happening in our life, like them starting school and then them going into team sports. And maybe, you see what I'm saying is that there's lifestyle shifts that come about every 3 to 5 years. And so people don't think about that. And so they don't prepare and plan for it. So that's why I use 3 years, because I think people can get their heads wrapped around it.
Man, I love that, Carey. That's so true. You said something that just when you talked about the reason we set that is to prepare. I think many times, like we know what we want, but I love how it really goes into depth of like how old your family be and what life shifts. I never thought about playing this life shifts and the challenges. Because I love what you said there. There's going to be some challenges along the way, and you can kind of anticipate them to where those shifts happen. Wow. I love that, because I've heard 5 years. I'll be honest. I heard the 5 years. It felt so far, but like you said, 3 years feels like it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it kind of, when I ask people that, and I actually get them to write their vision for me, which is a gift that I'm going to give your listeners here today at the end, is a workbook that I created called Vision is Victory. And when I get them to write it, then I ask them, how do you feel about it? And I get a range of emotions. People saying, this is exciting. This gives me hope. I'm inspired. And then I also get the, oh my gosh, now I'm feeling like I really have to go do this now. Right. So there's a lot of, but without it, like you said, we just kind of let things happen by chance, and we drift, and a year goes by and then another year goes by, and all those things become what I call a someday plan, where you're just hoping that someday it'll happen. Mm-hmm. And I'm just a big believer that, you just have to get it out, get it on paper, and put some dates on some things. Just take some baby steps that you're going to do this step by this point, this step by this point, right? Like when my daughter and I launched our book, the first thing we told the publisher, Sam, was the date that we wanted to have a big book launch party. And so when we told her that date, which was my son's birthday, 11/11, we started going, okay, so if that's what we're going to do, is we're going to have that book and a big launch party. We knew what we needed to do 3 months out, 6 months out, 9 months out to make that happen. So it gave us a game plan.
Man, I love that. I think that's such a smart strategy. I like how you kind of reverse when you had your landmarks along the way. I think that's so powerful. And I love what you really focus on. Like, it's those baby steps. I know sometimes it's so hard to really take that first step. But I love how it's that small step that leads you in that right direction, instead of leaving, like you said, the wishing or hoping, right, things to change.
Right.
So how would you say defining, that vision helps people take that meaningful step forward? Like you said, like now that when you can define that vision, is that really that catalyst, that step, instead of getting out of that wishing and hoping?
Well, yeah, because it gives you the inspiration to go do it. And so when I wrote my first vision out, like I told you, I was working a 9-to-5 job, and I knew that that was not going to work for me, especially when we were going to have kids. I wanted to be able to work from home. And so what that gave me was the opportunity to start looking for options of what that could look like. My background was in sales and marketing, and so I thought I would be a consultant in that industry for a while, which I did for about a minute. And then I got introduced to the industry of network marketing with a company called Arbonne, which most people know. And it checked all the boxes, Sam. It was residual income, earning trips, leadership, affecting change. So I knew in an instant when I got introduced to it that was the path I should take. And that's what it really helps people do, is to figure out, okay, what is it that I want, so that those opportunities can present themselves and that you can make the right choices.
Man, that's so awesome. I really love what you said right there. Like, when you know what you want, those opportunities will present themselves. I think that's so powerful, because many times we know what we want or we don't know what we want. So the opportunity comes and we miss it. Right. But I love how you said when I know what I wanted and the opportunity came, I knew what was best for me. I think that's a statement, because so many times we're going through situations, we have an idea of what we want. We don't quite know. But we let so many great things pass us by, and we're like, man, I wish I would have, but I didn't know, what I didn't know.
Right. Yeah, it was just very clear for me when I got introduced to it that was it. And so when I'm working with clients, especially young adults, and they're really struggling with what is my path, when they write out the vision and they start looking at the options, it's easier to make those decisions as to what lines up with your vision and what feels right for you. And to make some choices and some changes if you need to.
I like that. I like that you have some choices and some changes, because I think many times, some people get anxiety with setting a goal because they don't feel like they can change it. But I love how you say we can make some choices and changes along the path. Is that something you recommend? Like, is that good 3-year mark where you can kind of make some changes around there? Is that what you kind of say?
Well, the changes can happen really fast once you make the decision. It's just knowing what you're wanting to create with certain timelines on it. So if you have a 3-year vision of what you want your life to look like, then we can start looking at, okay, if that's that 3 years from now, what are some solid goals that we can create for this year to start moving in that direction? And more times than not, Sam, when I've worked with people on this, they've been afraid to put 3 years because they think it's too soon to make that change. But what I've found is when they get really clear on the vision, it happens a lot faster than they think, because the clarity just really presents those opportunities a lot faster. So timeline is really what happens between you, God, the universe, what you're willing to do. A lot of people really fear change, so they can actually kind of get in their own way, right? So that's why I tell people to take the baby steps. Just a little bit every day moves you in the right direction.
I love that, man. That's such a powerful message in itself. Like you said, really having that clear for what you want. And I think it's so powerful, because I love how you talked about, many people are wanting to get their goals quickly. But I love how you really talked about, it's when you get those clear goals, things just naturally happen in order. Like you said, we really can't push the timeline, but we know when we're moving in the right direction. And I think it's like when we don't have goals, it feels like it takes forever because we don't really even know we're going in the right direction, right?
Right. Yeah, leaving it all up to chance.
So I really love. Yes, too much to chance, and then you find yourself doing so many detours to get right back on track.
Right.
So I love that strategy, man. I think it's so powerful. I love that. Big on mental health and really helping people with that. What is the importance of addressing mental health concerns, especially among the young people?
Yeah, I think what's happening most there is that a lot of them really struggle with, am I on the right path? Do I really want to do this? I think, unfortunately, what still is happening in our world is that we set kids on a path through school, telling them what we think they should do, what the best job would be for them, and, the right career, right income. And I think sometimes they get out of school and go follow that path, and then they're not happy. and they're really afraid to make any changes because they fear making big mistakes. They fear what people will think. They fear losing friendships over it. And so it becomes a real inner struggle. And getting very frozen and isolated and lonely doesn't help with that thought process either. So just being told, just letting them know, you can choose, like me, you can choose a path that is right for you. You just have to get clear on what that is and what you really want, so that you can just take, like I've said several times, some baby steps in that direction, so that you can start feeling good about it and be in the right support system, which is why we're building this community of people, letting them know, you know what, you're okay. You're doing the right thing for you. Yeah. And you just need to just follow your heart, even though it's scary, and find the people that are going to help you get there. I was really, really big on this in both of my careers, that I would surround myself with the people that were already where I wanted to be. And those were the people who encouraged me every day, especially on the days I wanted to quit. I've always had a very big support cheerleading team, right? A lot of encouragement.
Man, that is awesome. I really love that. I love how you talked about, I think like you said, we find ourselves in isolation, especially when we're confused, because we want to think or look like we know what we're doing. And I think that's just like you said, society tells us, like, you got to work this job, you got to make this much income. And they've never really focused on, are you happy, or this what you feel purposefully doing. But I love how you really try to help people find that vision for them authentically to them. Because I think many times there's a lot of people, like, they're not happy in their career, but what they want to do is stop because everybody else is doing this. Society tells them this is going to make you so much money, or really searching for fulfillment. So how would somebody navigate that? Like, when I know you're setting those goals, but when they're, in that messy middle of the transition of their lives, where they're really starting to pick that career, how do you make people to pick joy or purpose, when they're trying to get that income at the same time?
How do they go on the right path? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah. How do they get on the right path? Exactly. How do they get on the right path?
So I'll use an example. So I have my own podcast, and one day I was in the studio, and they had an intern who was in the room with me when we were recording. He's 22 years old, and he had been going to college and stopped going to college for a while, especially during COVID, because it was just not a great experience, right? And he loved working on the podcast, but he was just not certain of the path he wanted to go. And he really wanted to go, I think, more into some like movie video production kind of stuff. But he had no idea what that looked like. Where do you start? Would he really like it? And I told him to reach out if he knew one person that was in that industry or knew somebody in that industry that he could talk to ask those questions, right? So most of us can figure out how to start asking people if they can talk to them about their journey, how they got there, or at least ask people, do you know somebody who's been on this journey that you could connect me to? I'm really good about power of association, and knowing that there are so many people out there that are willing to mentor you and guide you and give you some advice to figure out, what your next step should be. Obviously, that's not my industry, so I couldn't help him, but I could direct him to some people that could. So we just have to get better at asking. Just have to ask a lot of questions, and, just see what fits and where to start.
Such a powerful message right there. Not only asking questions, but that, that power of association. I love how you really talked about, if I know somebody in the industry, because you don't know what you don't know. You might get there and not enjoy it. But I love how you talked about surround yourself with the people that are doing what you want to do. And then you can start to place yourself in that situation. I think that's so awesome. So smart.
Yeah. It's so helpful.
How can, like, parents or educators support those young struggling with their mental health? Like, when somebody's going through mental health, how can a parent, support?
I think you're asking me, how can a parent support?
No, you're good. Yeah, lay there. So I was wanting to know, how can parents or an educator support a young adult that's struggling with mental health? How can we better support somebody that's going through something like that?
Well, I think the big thing is that we just need to be more aware of asking people how they're really doing. I don't think we do that enough. I think we assume that if they don't look like they're struggling, that they're doing okay. And what I know is that more times than not, especially people who are really struggling, hide it. So I think we need to be better of not assuming just because you might look like you're doing okay that you really are. So we need to ask more questions. And when we ask, I think we need to be a lot better about listening without judging. And that's very hard to do, I think, for parents, especially if their son or daughter is not going on a path that they wanted them to go on. And that is a challenge. But, we have to and we are getting better at this, but I think we have to be better at just accepting people for where they're at and where they want to go, not what we want them to do.
Man, that's awesome. Accepting people for where they're at and what they want to do, which is really challenging, like you said, especially for a parent or, as a friend, because you had this expectation, but really just letting people be authentic, supporting them where they're at. I love that strategy. Because like you said, I think it's the strongest people. We don't maybe dealing with the most toughest challenges, and we'll never know. But what would you say is a good strategy? How to observe, like they're like, you know what, I want to reach out to that friend or that, but I just don't know how to bring that up without maybe they're making them feel offended, or afraid to ask. How do you have that conversation?
I've learned a lot about this, Sam, from people who are experts in this field. And one of the myths that we have right now is that if we ask somebody how they're doing or if they're thinking depressing thoughts, that we're planting the seed to make it worse or to make them feel ashamed or that we're judging them. And that is so not true. I think that more people are wanting to talk and wanting somebody to ask. So I think we just have to relinquish all of the myths that we have around it's taboo to bring it up or to ask these questions.
I love that. I mean, that's awesome to hear, because I think especially as men, we want to be tough, and you're like, I don't want to ask my best bro friend, like, how are you doing really? But I love that. Like you said, it's really holding that space for them. That's awesome.
Yes.
It's a powerful thing to give people that space. It's a really healing. Love how you talked about, are there any more stigmas, around mental health that, the culture needs to kind of get away from? I love how you talked about right there that people need that space, and it's not to shy away from those conversations and really ask because they're looking to talk. Are there any other stigmas or strategies you found of really helping people open up to that conversation?
Well, I think you said, we need to stop pretending that we've got this figured out and that we can do it alone. I think it's time that we really build more communities, strong communities that are there for each other a lot, not just every once in a while, but a lot. And to just reach out. And again, if you're somebody that you feel like you're lonely or you feel like you're isolating, to reach out to somebody and say, hey, I think I might need some help here. Where can I go to get help with what I'm struggling with right now? Whether it's your career, your relationships, your health, whatever that is, just find the right community for you and get plugged in. And we just have to forget this whole thought around, I've got this and I can figure this out on my own. We need more community.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's, like you said, there's so much more power in community. And I think that's a great lesson in itself, is that you don't have to go at this alone. I think many times when you're going through, you always want to shy away and act like everything's okay. But I love how you talked about just being authentic and being willing to say, I'm not okay and I need some help. Communities, finding those communities, realizing that you're not the only one, that there's people that are that may feel the exact same way as you, and that you don't have to go through alone. I think I love that.
Exactly.
So what are some key lessons you may have, that you've learned on this, your resilience and faith through that personal growth through these challenges? What are some key lessons you've learned on this journey so far?
Again, the vision is everything. That's why the book is called Vision is Victory, that when you have a clear vision, it will pull you through just about everything. And to just stay true to it every day. Even on days where you might feel super overwhelmed, you can always look to the vision and decide, okay, what's the best use of my time today? Right. And to let go what isn't that important. Because at the end of the day, we're not promised tomorrow, Sam. So we've got to be really, really focused on doing the things that are most important every day. And that is taking care of ourselves, taking care of our families, getting out, getting even just 20 minutes of sunshine every day. A lot of those little things daily help me in the bigger picture. And again, I surround myself with some really awesome people. And that's, I think, another big key takeaway here.
Man, I love that. I really love how you talked about, we only have this one day. And I think that's such a powerful thing. It really makes you honor and realize, like you said, like it's really focusing on each day on what's important. I think, right. Like you can all say is anytime people tell us what's important, whether it feels like your schedule will always get full of other people's stuff. But I love how you talked about realizing what's important for that day and winning that day.
Right.
Those choices.
Right. And celebrating that.
Man, I love it. I love it. Give to a listener who may be struggling with loss, uncertainty, or maybe even struggling with that purpose.
I lost you again for a second, Sam.
No, you're good. Got you. So what advice would you give to a listener who's listening to this and they're like, we're struggling with loss or uncertainty or even struggling with just purpose? What would you tell a listener?
Again, sit down and write out your vision. Take the time. Don't put it off because people put it off. So I just really want to encourage everybody today. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to give you a link, Sam, that you can share with this show for people to download my Vision is Victory workbook. It's an actual workbook that walks you through the process of why you need to have this written vision, how to write it on paper, how to break it down into bite-sized goals. But, I just really want to encourage everybody to not put it off if you've never done it, and most people haven't, to do that today.
Yes, I'm excited for you to. It's those little steps, but having that bigger picture, realizing it's like when I hear what you're talking about, it's like we have this puzzle in front of us, and each day opportunity to fill that puzzle in with the piece in that right direction of that big picture. I love how you really focus on it's those little steps in winning each day. I think many times we can get overwhelmed, right? You're like, man, I have all these goals accomplished, but I love how you talked about it. It's just really focusing on the day, and that right. Each day is a gift, and honoring it by powerful.
Exactly.
But I love your books. I would love for you to talk. Yeah, yes, I love it. Yes, I'd love you to talk. So you said, I know you have those books. Keep Looking Up. That's that book you wrote with you and your daughter. So I want you to talk just a little bit about that book so people can know, get more information on that one. So that one you said is about what now?
So Keep Looking Up is the book that my daughter and I wrote after losing both my husband and my son. And it's 11 chapters of what we learned in the journey so that we can help other people who are walking through their own adversity. Or it's a great book for people to read if they're trying to help somebody going through loss or moving through an adversity. So it's just kind of our insights on what helped us and what we learned. And there's questions, I believe, at the end of every chapter. So you can actually use it as a like a book club type book or something to discuss amongst your, and your family and your friends. So yeah, that's why we wrote the book.
Man, I love that. I think that's it takes such a courage to share that story in itself. But I love the fact that, y'all teamed up together and really took on that mission to help other people go into that same thing, which is such a challenge. It's nice to know through it and that are willing to share their journey through something so tragic and hard to deal with it at the same time, man. Yeah. But Carey, thank you so much for just your message. And but I know, like many people, like I know me, I'm like how do we act with you?
I lost you again for a minute, Sam. What did you ask me another
Sorry,
question?
no, you're good. You're good. You're good. I think it cut out for us. So I'm going to say, most people are probably wondering, how do we stay in contact with you? How do we keep in touch with you? Where can people follow you at?
Sure. So I'm everywhere: Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, all the things. I also have a website you can visit called careyconley.com. And when you download that ebook, you will actually start getting my emails, my newsletter emails.
Awesome. For you, I'm going to put all of Carey's links under here, that link to that book, the link to her website, and all of her socials as well. Man, first, take a snapshot, shoot a DM Carey, let her know. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, information like she's dead, impacting those 1,000 lives. Make sure you follow her on all of her socials and get that book, because I know that, right? Vision is victory. So we all need to set that vision for our lives, right steps each and every day. So, Carey, if you had one message for people listening on here, what would you want to leave them with? If you had to leave them one message,
just to not be afraid to follow your own purpose, your own path. Right? If you're not following it, you're gonna die with regret, and I think that's a very sad thing. So I just want to encourage people to really follow their own path and figure out what that is.
Man, you heard it. I couldn't say it any better. I love that. Follow your purpose and your path without fear. Thank you so much, Carey, for your time. All right, friends. Like I said, make sure you follow her on all her socials. Get that book. I'm gonna put the. It's not the last time you hear from Carey. All right, friends. Take care.